talking about this. I never honestly thought we'd have a good reason to talk about this. And it like on my timeline, it's come quite apparent between all of my friends that I have seen Cool Runnings, some might say an unhealthy amount of times. It is not to go with no absolute hyperbole that I have seen Cool Runnings well over 100 times. I own it on VHS. I own it on DVD. I don't know if it exists on Blu-ray, but I would own it if it did. It was one of that. I didn't have a lot of movies growing up. I fell in love with it. And growing up, I never fell out of that love, and I just seemed to appreciate more and more things about it. And then life happened. They are back. Jamaica has another team in the bobsled races, and I cannot believe it. Every device I had exploded. Tell me you've seen this. What? I'm like, I'm just waking up. What happened? Oh, it's glorious. And then Mike's like, man, we should really do a fresh takes on that. I'm like, yeah, we should.
Mm-hmm.
News came across my desk that Mike's only seen it like twice. So I was like, yeah, this is going to be an actually relatively fresh takes. I'm like, awesome. Oh, so Mike, you start, buddy.
Boy, I'm not even sure where to start. But there's a little bit of a history between Brock and I when it comes to this movie. So he and I met on an old, I think, AMC after show that we did like years ago. After we got done recording, we just started shooting the shit for like about a good hour or so. We asked each other what our favorite movies was.
Mm-hmm.
And this was like his easy answer.
Oh yeah, without question. I always forget that I had the same conversation with Micah. He asked me what my favorite movie was, and I was like, Cool Runnings. He's like, for real? I'm like, yeah. He's like, that's awesome. I've never heard anyone say that before, but I love that. Go ahead.
And to be honest, I have no real excuse why it's taken me this long to finally see this movie. But I watched it for the second time last night. And yeah, this movie just really holds up.
Came out in 93.
Yeah, it came out in 93, and yet it still feels fresh. It still feels relevant. And honestly, I think one of my favorite things about this is just the fact that, well, for one thing, the Jamaican bobsled team is back.
Mm-hmm.
And also, it just has a really positive message.
It does. It really does. Anyone who's watching this channel and watching these fresh takes specifically are starting to notice a pattern with the things that I love, appreciate, and really have a fondness for. It is camaraderie. It is fellowship. It is extreme shows of loyalty. And obviously, we did a very, very, very passionate fresh takes run of Gurren. I love this movie as much as I love Gurren.
There are a few Gurren moments in this movie too.
Oh yeah, there is. And it's just that, man, from second one, I was at my now surrogate father's house. Man, was it 2 years ago? It was a year ago. And like Disney Plus had just become like a big thing. So it had to have been a year ago. And like their basement's kind of in an L shape, and they have these queen size mattresses that they always set in the corner of their basement, which is basically where their main living room is, that us boys always sleep on when we go to visit them. And all of a sudden, Morgan, my buddy, is normally up in the morning before me because I'm normally done with a week of like working 12 to 13 hour shifts, and I'm dead. So then I'm just like lolling, partially asleep, partially not. And all you hear is the beginning, like 2 notes of that opening hit. And I'm like, dude, you're watching Cool Runnings? Like, how did you know that? I'm like, it's got a really recognizable opening when you've seen it as much as I have. And the chemistry from the jump, even before they get on the bobsled team, the chemistry between these 4 dudes is unreal.
Oh yeah. So let's talk about the characters themselves. We've got outside of John Candy as their coach, who we'll get to in a minute.
Oh, I miss John Candy more every time I see him.
Same. We've got Leon Robinson as Darius Bannock, kind of the leader of the group. Dougie Doug as Sanka Coffee,
who I share a birthday with. Another thing that I love about this movie.
Nice. We've got Raul D. Lewis as Junior Bevel, and Malik Yoba as Yul Brynner.
Yul Brynner. Don't touch me.
He really does have some of the best lines.
He does. Like, this movie is a one-liner marathon. Like, I always think, okay, I don't remember this movie exactly as it goes along, but man, almost every scene has like 5 lines worth quoting from it. Mm-hmm. It's unreal. And it... and you don't even get to see John Candy's character, Irv Blitzer, for a little bit. You just the beginning race, getting to see how lovable these characters are. Just the moment I fell in love with Sanka was the freaking song with the go-kart. And just Doris coming in, who's the big hot bag of egg who doesn't have to go and say, who doesn't pay, that doesn't care, Sanka. It's like, you established they have been best friends for years in 2 seconds. That was such a believable bonding moment that, like, he loves to say that every time he can, and just a little head shake from Sanka, I'm like, like, nothing feels fake in it, and that's another thing that I appreciate. It's just every moment they have, I genuinely feel between these people.
Mm-hmm. Even like once we finally meet Irving Blitzer, you don't exactly know. You don't get to find out what his backstory is until later.
Mm-hmm.
But like the second you meet him, you understand he's not exactly here by choice. He's here pretty much because he's exiled.
Yep. He did it bad. Not sure why, but he did it bad. That introduction scene in the bar with him is so good. No. Just, the first Jamaican bobsled team. Remember Doris? Remember the stick, the radio? The stick, radio with the stick? Let's go! John Candy is one of those people that he's not exactly a thespian, but when it gets down to it and he has to do a serious take in a movie, he's there. And he has a lot of those in this. Give or take, a lot of this is him shucking and jiving and having the time of his life joking around, but
when it's time to get serious, he really knows how to rein it in.
Oh, he does. And like, I just posted on my Facebook, like, my favorite line dialogue, and we'll get to it. It's the second to last exchange he has with Doris in the entire movie. And it's another thing that, like, I showed you, I have the Gurin painting. It's another painting I have lined up, and we'll get to it, but it's a great motto, and it's kind of scary how just a simple Disney movie from the 90s who wanted to be the inspirational, go get 'em tiger type of sports movie that did and was so much better than what a lot of people expected. Like, we're
Oh
barely
yeah.
even talking about it, but I tell people that my favorite movie is Cool Runnings, and they're like, "Oh, that cute little bobsled movie from the 90s." I'm like, "When's the last time you watched it, and were you above the age of 10?"
Yeah, because think about the subtext of, say, the bar scene, or even just like even just their first run once they actually get to Calgary.
Mhm.
By by the way, one of my favorite moments is once they land in Calgary and they leave the airport. Sanka.
Seika, what you smoking? I ain't smoking. I'm
I'm
breathing.
breathing.
Seika has a line that has been in my what I want to say repertoire since I was like, oh, this came out in 93, so I would have had good memory of like enough to remember it. Since I was like, oh, I want to say like 6 or 7. Cold, I'm freezing my Royal Rastafarian nays. And me and Mike, as northern stated folk, me from Wisconsin, Mike from New York, knows how this crap gets. So when we
Mhm.
get to, I don't know how many southern friends you have, but I have a lot of friends that are from like the Texas, Louisiana area that every now and then come up and visit friends that are from up here. And I always see them bundling up doing this, and it's like 30 degrees. And we'll have moments where people that are from the South that don't go up north and don't get to see the you northern people are insane type moments where it's like, it was just negative 15, but it jumps to like 25. But it feels like it's 70. So you'll see some people just go into the store with nothing but a t-shirt on. So that's what I feel like, where it's like Irv, when he's just in his like loaf jacket at the airport waiting, and everybody goes in and puts on like 15 layers. Like, oh, I bond with that on a near spiritual level.
That's pretty much been this week in New York. Like we've had a couple wind chills. It's at least felt like 15 below for days at a time.
Mm-hmm.
But then when it warms up, it really, like, you really start to notice the difference.
Oh yeah. And it's one of those things where it's just like, how do you guys get used to the cold? We stay inside. It's not rocket science. Turn the heat on.
Basically.
Yeah. But I my notes for this, for what we wanted to talk about, this whole chunk is just one-liners. The whole movie of notes from just like, man, going through all of it, and just there was a couple things that I wanted to bring up that I didn't notice until I was a lot older. Like, they go through all this stuff. Now, this movie is still applicable nowadays and it does hold up. But man, also at the same time, this might be one of the movies that just encapsulates a 90s movie. Because, like, them saving up the money and doing all that. And, like, when Doris goes into the offices and asks for, like, sponsorships and stuff like that, I didn't notice until I was much older. I want to say until I was in my 20s. That when he goes to the office, it's the exact same office with the same desk, but like different pictures and a plant like this moved in the background for each different person.
I didn't notice that either, but wow.
I didn't notice the one time I watched when I was older. I'm like, wait, hold on. You're on it. I'm like, it's got the same indentation in the wall. The paint is the same. I'm like, okay, I get it. You didn't need to spend money for that. That's okay. Oh yeah. This movie also, like, it's not that big of a deal that we wait until we get to Calgary, but like their training is just one of the best montages ever. Sanka breaking his dread off, stuff like that when they finally get in. But one thing that I cannot overstate enough. And it's another thing that's in my repertoire ever. And it changes because obviously you can't use the word bobsled with everything. But when they're watching the safety instructional video,
Oh wait,
and,
this is one of my favorites. Like it's like your bones don't break, they shatter.
they shatter. Your bones don't break in a bobsled. No, no, no. They shatter. Whenever I'm watching like sports highlights of someone getting hurt, I always just reverberate like back, like, no, no, no. Your bones don't break in boxing. No, no, no. They shatter. Candy's delivery of that line is off the charts. And another one, I won't go through every one liner in the movie, but another one that my youth pastor, everybody says in my group of friends is stuck in their heads for the amount of time I've made them watch Cool Runnings. Plus, but I beat your butt right here, right now. How about I draw a line down the middle of your head so it looks like a butt? Don't write movies like this anymore. Because in any other movie, that would be a dumb one-off joke that no one would laugh at. Sanka's saying it, that's funny.
It's because of his delivery and just the fact that he is just a character.
He is. Everyone in the movie's great. Like I said, they all play their roles and they don't go for anything more, and it's perfect. It's absolutely perfect. But yeah, that you get they also never. One thing I appreciate about this movie is one thing they never like some of the movies of this type, they only have the what I want to say. Everything's good until you see the secret of the person, and then we have to have a big moment, and then we don't get along, and then we finally get over it. They make you well aware throughout this entire movie that Irv did some bad stuff.
Yep.
And I appreciate that. Like the second they even land and he's trying to talk with his buddy in the rotating cafe, he's just like, why are you trying this again? What, like $4,300 for a bobsled? Like, what are you doing?
There's a lot of I don't know if show don't tell is the right word, but there's a lot of implied history that they don't need to go too in depth with, but you can kind of you can piece together his history until they just straight out like say it.
They have the what I like to call the Colonel Frank Slade in the courtroom and Scent of a Woman talk. Not quite to that level. Man, if we ever do like just a chat or like a podcast or something talking about top monologues in movies, I'd be hard pressed to find one that I think is better than that ending monologue from Al Pacino in A Scent of a Woman.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah,
it's been a while since I've seen that movie, but I remember really liking that monologue.
Dude, he goes off, and I feel so bad for Chris O'Donnell every time I watch that movie because Batman and Robin ruined his career. But anyway, that's a whole other thing. Yeah, they get the little bit, and it's like you want to talk about like individual scenes. There's no fat on this movie. They're pretty much training in Calgary and then in the final races, and have like one or two scenes outside of that. This movie's only like an hour and a half.
And something I should point out is, this makes a great double feature with a more recent movie, Eddie the Eagle.
Sure.
And the Jamaican bobsled team even has like a little mention in Eddie the Eagle.
Really?
I forget the specific line of dialogue, but they make a slight reference to the Jamaican bobsled team, because supposedly these two movies kind of take place in around the same year.
That makes sense. I have not seen Eddie the Eagle. I want to, but I have not.
We'll have to add that to the list.
Oh, absolutely. I'm very bad at rewatching the same things. As I've said, I've seen this movie well over 100 times. I'm very bad at watching new things sometimes. But yeah, they don't do a whole lot outside of like the rant in the bar. And like one great line before then, again, of talking about how I'm like, anyone who just saw that was like, oh, that was the cute 90s movie from whatever. There's a lot of really accurate things that are still now a thing nowadays. Like when Junior's talking about like, I don't feel welcome here. And then Yule just says to him, the different people eyes feel it's different. I'm like,
Yep.
yeah. And then like again, the Swiss guy, or not the Swiss guy. He's the East German team. I can't think of his name. It's escaping me. Wow.
I know who you're talking about.
Oh my gosh. How can I not remember his name? Always calls everyone Jamaica.
Is it Joseph?
Joseph Gruel. Yeah, that's what it is. Joseph Gruel. But basically the I quote unquote antagonist, one of them of it, and just always ripping on the teams. They feel like they don't know what they're doing. And his comeuppance he gets at that bar fight is fantastic.
It is.
Say something, Jamaica. Come on, say something. No problem, man. Boom! Just what is your okay? And there's a bunch of lines that were like, the whole rant about Ice 2 and the Bill Sled team, bobsled, whoever. Whose relationship do you like more, I want to say, in the movie? Sanka and Doris's or Yule and Junior's?
Ooh, that's tough. I think in general, I like Doris and Sanka just because of the friendship they have, but from like a story perspective, the scene with the mirror with Yule and Junior when he gives him the pride power monologue.
So good.
Again, kind of a Gurren moment where he's like,
it is
where he's it essentially boils down to believe in you, like you have the power.
Absolutely. And it's like, and he has another moment with that later too, when he tells his dad off and his dad's in the elevator. There's the one thing, and I mean the one thing that I did not bring up in our Gurren Fresh takes that Yule kind of does for Junior here. When Simone has this big triumphant moment and he is bitching out Guame after he had just recombined with Rossiu and Gurren. And he's doing over his big thing about how his bro is on his back and in his heart. And they're showing the shocked reactions of everybody in Team Gurren. Everyone on that team is shocked that this is happening, except for one dude. And it's Leon, who's got his arms crossed, just bobbing his head, smiling. Because he's like, I was just waiting for this to happen. I knew it. And that's Yule in the background. It's just, Junior, you want badass mother. That's all he had to say. Because he's like, I knew it, he had it in you. You just needed to look for it, and you're there. And like, again, a very much sports movie thing. Like, the dude sold his car to pay for the team to go.
He's always been a bro.
He always has been. It just took a little bit of, basically, you go get your palace. That's another good moment with them, the whole Buckingham Palace thing. But again, camaraderie with these people and having to overcome stuff. They get through all this and they have their test run. We're kind of weaving and wobbling here because, again, there's not a lot of fat in this movie. So if we try to trek it right in order, we go right through. But like, they have their test run. And it's not Krojcik. That for lack of better terms, dickhead that used to be
Kurt.
Kurt, yeah, that used to be Herb's coach. it gets to be their third guy down in the end, and they pass under a minute to qualify, and then they're having their celebration, painting up the bobsled, and he's like, "What's your color?" Tallulah. That sounds like a $2 hookup. Where'd you get that name from? Every time I hear that joke, I'm like, it sounds like a $2 hooker. I'm like, oh, this movie is so 90s. That would not have gotten away with a Disney movie today. But then they get told they're disqualified. They get no reason, nothing. And this is my, again, Youth Pastor Surrogate Dad's one of his favorite moments in the movie. It's one of mine. That Irv bursts into there in the middle of their meeting, and they go talking about, he's like, why'd you disqualify my guys? And they bring up the rules that, again, they just changed a rule so that the guys can't get in. And one of the old crotches from like Kurt's right side goes, and we have to make contingencies for possible embarrassments, and goes through this whole big thing. He's like, embarrassments, huh? I didn't realize 4 black guys in a bobsled could make you blush. I'm like, that sit the hell down, old man. We are not having this "you are racist but you don't want to say it" moment right now. And just lays it out in a line that he believes he's a piece of trash. But even if he's a piece of trash, those 4 guys aren't. That they've worked their ass off. Brings out the spirit of the Olympics and how great that is. That I don't care where you're from, you should be able to represent your country and wave your nation's flag.
These kind of speeches are some of my favorite moments in movies like that touch upon themes like this, where like our main hero will basically do everything he can to pretty much deflate any sort of racist argument.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, this scene is just perfect.
It is. It's they don't overdo it. They have him go in there, chew every one of their asses out, and just walk. Openly offers them to never let him compete in an Olympic event ever again, as long as his guys get to go. It just, again, the end of this movie made me cry because of just all the stuff that it builds up to this. And again, when I picture this coach and like outside of the comedic side to it, I don't initially in my head, if I'd have been casting this, think John Candy. But I don't know who else I could see being Herb Blitzer besides John Candy in this movie iteration, anyway.
Yeah, for this movie, I think they chose the right actor, someone who, has that sort of likability,
mm-hmm.
but can also bring out that darkness.
Yeah, I'd say so. It's enough to where it's like, just how much do you have to get screwed out of things? Like, for real, what are you guys gaining? It's, if they would have tried this with anyone else that was a white team, and I'm just bringing this up, like a white team, like there would have been an uproar, but it's like, nah, it's just, we're going to be okay. This, that, and this, and that. It's just like, and I've had people say, it's like, that's overdone. I'm like,
is it though?
I don't know what planet you've lived on for however many years you've been alive. This is undercutting by a wide margin. By a wide margin. It's pretty much, they have that 2 races and the movie's over.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to believe how little of a third act this movie has.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the story is really just about getting there. Mm-hmm. It isn't really focused on the race itself.
their actual time doing Olympic actual qualified in their uniforms with bobsled painted races is like 20 minutes in an hour and 10 minute
even
movie.
that.
If even that, if you don't count the dialogue, like they're actually in the sled with their colors on for probably 10 minutes. It's kind of insane. But they didn't need that though, and that's kind of the best thing about it. The whole thing is about them making it, believe it in themselves, yeah, but it's just that four dudes who know where they come from. And I like how they kind of had like Doris just trying to fit in type of things, and I felt like it's not overdone, like him trying to copy the Swiss. It's like, that's what the Swiss do, the psych themselves up. Yeah, they also be making a little pocket knives, but you don't see us doing that either. Enough about the down Swiss. And it's like you said, the moments between Sanka and Doris. That moment that he has with Doris, basically telling him, dude, we're Jamaicans here. We're gonna bobsled Jamaican.
Yeah, he like one of his best lines is, "I didn't come all the way here to forget where I came from."
Mm-hmm. Yep, it is, and between those two, it's like the fact that you have Sanka telling Doris that is a lot. Because it was the whole thing where he didn't want to do this in the first place. Because again, penguins and igloos and Eskimos and ice. It's like, this isn't us. And then he's like, no, this is us, but we're going to do it as us. And like leading up to that last race, one of my favorite line exchanges in the entire movie history happens between Doris and Irv Blitzer when he wants to go out to eat, and Doris is like, nah, I gotta study turns. And he's asked them about the cheating. He's like, once winning becomes your entire life, you have to keep winning. And he's like, you had everything. You had 2 gold medals. He's like, if you're not enough with it, you'll never be enough with. If you're not enough without it, you'll never be enough with it. And then Doris just asks him, hey, coach, when will I know if I'm enough? When you cross the finish line, you'll know. Another picture I have commissioned, I don't know when it's going to get done because this girl is quite busy, is that shot of them carrying the bobsled, and it finally hits where the finish line is, and it's going to be that exchange in the open gap.
Oh, that is good.
And I cannot wait to have that here. But man, and the fact that they even bring back again, another line that I say a lot whenever I hurt myself, and friends prep it every time because they know I'm going to say it. Is Sanka, you dead? Yeah, man. They even bring that back in a serious note. Sanka, you dead? No, man. But we have to finish the race. I don't know if I have a moment in a sports movie that I like more than them 4 dudes carrying the bobsled.
It's a very unique moment too, because they could have easily just given up at that point, but instead they're like, no, we have to finish.
Yeah, they could have pushed it even, and it wouldn't have looked as great. But it's like, no, we didn't come here to not finish. No one would have gave them crap because of that crash. And man, it gets me every time, and I cringe every time I see it. When they're coming around the corner, and I don't know if that's actually the actor that plays Doris that's in the bobsled, but when that bobsled comes around the corner and that dude's head is in the ice coming around the corner, and it's like 90'd into the bobsled. Oh, it hurts.
Even before that, seeing like the screws coming apart on the bottom of the sled, it's a very tense moment.
Yeah, because you think it's going to go a lot worse than what it does. And the screech that comes through when they're jetting through those corners, that's terrifying. And like, can you just imagine? Again, I joke about it. Bones don't break in a bobsled. No, they shatter. You're easily going 80 to 90 miles an hour down a track made of solid ice that's a half tube and a metal rocket. That's terrifying.
It is.
One wrong move, you are dead, or you wished you were. I just, but and as much as a cliched moment as it is, when you have that German captain be the first one to start cheering them on when he sees them carrying the bobsled,
it's such a cliche moment, but I think by the time it gets to Kurt, who starts clapping, that's when it really wins you over.
Especially when it's Kurt looking at everyone else, who's just like, why the hell am I even? Why did I do this to these guys? And then, like, just all that going through, you get to see Junior see his dad there supporting him, and once they cross, that goes down, and you just get a 2-second exchange between Derice and Irv, and he goes, and he just thanks him because they finished. He's like, you guys got here and you did it. I don't give a shit if you had the lowest time ever. Just thank you for letting me have this moment, and thank you for trusting me. In a simple look and a thank you. It's one of the best line deliveries John Candy's ever given in his life, in my opinion. Oh. And again, it's cliche. When Joseph Gruel is just like, yeah, and he's like, we'll see you here next year. Good job. It's just like, why was I being an asshole to you? Oh, because I didn't want somebody else trying to ruin my party.
Pretty much.
And I can't say that enough with some things. Just people, I don't care if you want to never change something about your life, if you're just different, you want to change something about your life. If you ever, just because someone's a different opinion, different skin color, different whatever, never in your life seek to make that person sad just because they are not what you are not. You are the lowest form of a trash individual that I want nothing to do with in my life, period. If you spot a difference in somebody and just go, yeah, I'm not going to like that guy. You are a waste of air. Don't look in my direction. And I try and tell people, or it's just like, you go get enough of that in this. I'm like, rewatch this and give it a fresh perspective of like an adult actually looking at the themes and how they're handled. It's not just some cute movie from the 90s that you remember liking once and then you sing the song every now and then. It's a genuinely really good movie.
Mm-hmm. It's definitely a lot better written than even most other adult sports films, because there's so much more under the surface.
Mm-hmm. And it's never beaten over your head either. I never felt like certain scenes were unnecessary. I never felt like they went out of your way and borderline winked at the camera to make you understand that they were trying to get a message across. It was just, they said what they wanted to. And before we leave, we're not quite done yet, but I have said this, and it'll be the third time I'm saying it, without hyperbole, since 93 when this came out, when I started watching it, probably 95 when I got the VHS for my parents for a birthday gift, I have realistically seen this movie over 100 times. Tonight, for the first time, did I notice that this thing is scored by Hans Zimmer.
Wait, you just noticed that now?
Just did. I had a near out-of-body experience. All these times, I'm just looking, and I'm finally, for kicks and giggles, just look down and I'm like, wait, what? How did I never see this? My brain legit melted. That was the first time in forever that I've seen this movie and noticed something different. How? And it's so just like a Hans Zimmer nowadays type of thing. You can tell when it's a Hans Zimmer movie now, kind of, because he's
Yeah.
got his things that he likes to do. It was like, huh? What? It legit blew my mind. Like, how did I never see this before? Or how did my mind not just auto filter that? Because it's like, I always notice that, like, Jonathan Turtletop and like all this blew my mind. Absolutely blew my mind.
Yeah, admittedly, it's not one of his more memorable scores, but you listen to this, and then you go right into listening to something like The Lion King, and then it starts to click.
It does, especially with the opening track. It's like, I don't know what the name of the track is, but when you wake up in the morning, is all that got no fun, cheers away. It's like, yeah, it's, you could tell that he had a style that he kind of evolved for the things that he liked to do, most definitely. And again, like you mentioned, like Lion King and stuff like that. And I'm like, you know what? It makes a lot of sense now. And it was just like, because my brain immediately went like 2010 and up Hans Zimmer. I'm like, what? And then I'm like, oh, duh, never mind. Nope, never mind. I'm an idiot. But yeah, man.
One of the other things I wanted to talk about was the fact that they actually shot this movie on location is,
Kind of nuts.
yeah. Like, obviously they shot the stuff in Calgary first. Then they did like the stuff in Kingston later.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's it's rare. It's rare that like you get to actually shoot on location, even for like movies based on a true story. Because sometimes Chicago will double for like New York, or
a lot.
or they'll just like create like they'll create countries in Europe on like a soundstage in Atlanta.
Mm-hmm. It's become the norm now. But yeah, it's, man, like it's mental thinking of that, because like I'm trying to think of what a cost like that would be, because this is outside of probably the price to shoot on that location. And like, I guess it'd be a little bit to like shoot in Kingston. I'm not exactly sure what an extra cost of like getting down there, but is a relatively insanely low budget movie.
Yeah, it was at the time 17 million. I don't know what that would be adjusted for inflation.
I don't know, but that is like picking out pocket lint and stuff right now. And I'm just trying to imagine how much that cost, like I said, is just to shoot on that location. Shooting on that location, John Candy's paycheck, and shooting in Kingston.
Yeah, that's like pretty much all they needed to spend.
Yeah. Because like all the guys that are in there, like I would imagine Dougie Doug's the biggest out of the four of them, but there's also not a lot of people in this movie either. There's an assload of extras, but there's like maybe 10 characters that are given names, and you only follow like 5 of them.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, and that I'm kind of happy about that, because you only brought in the other people as deterrents for the main crew, and you wouldn't have got as much bonding if you weren't with the main crew that much. It's like, it's them, Josef Gruel, Larry, the guy who tries to talk with Doris, the friend of his that he talks with at the cafe, Kurt, Junior's dad, Doris's wife. sank his mom, which I think all of them collectively have 20 minutes of screen time.
Ish total.
Ish. And the whatever position he would be, Mr. Coolidge.
Oh, the
Like
the Olympics
sports administrator, kind of.
Yeah.
Whatever his exact title is. But yeah. Again, like an hour and a half long movie. And like a stiff hour of it is nothing but those guys. Hour and 20 minutes of it, because basically everybody who's in the scene with them, they're in the scene also. There's rarely a time where they're not on screen. But
It's a very impressive movie in terms of how well it's paced, how sharp the dialogue is written, and I'm sure some of it was improv.
Oh yeah. I would imagine. Like the random stuff when they're talking, when they're watching the bobsled video. Bobsled's a miraculous thing. Yeah, so's a toilet. Oh yeah. And that was one thing, like, imagine if there was an outtakes. I have no idea, but it's a movie that didn't try for more than it needed to be, but absolutely freaking nailed what it wanted to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like I said, it's just, you said it, the pacing, the message, the writing, every bit of it's freaking nailed. It gets a stupid reputation of being the cute movie from the 90s about the bobsled team, but it's just like, don't do that, please. I hope a resurgence of people, or like people actually watch it more now because of this. I would love to see an article that there's some Disney Plus statistic that is just like a random blah 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 blah. Watched Cool Runnings because of blah blah blah, but that's just me.
Actually, that is genuinely something I'm curious about now. Now that this is the week of the 2022 Winter Olympics, I'm wondering how many people, because of this, are just now watching Cool Runnings for the first time.
It'd be awesome. Or I would love enough people were like, what was that movie from the whatever? And it just, yeah, man. Another, like, just even the name of the movie is a great message to live by. Cool Runnings, peace be the journey. It's just, again, I'm very good at just rambling. I really like this movie. I don't know if people have noticed that yet. I really, 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 really like this movie. And it's not one of those, like I said, that bring it up like your favorite animated movie is Prince of Egypt, but I think you've also said that's your actual favorite movie.
Yep.
Yeah. And it's just like, I didn't expect it when he said that either, but I'm just like, you know what? I really like that because it just, the meaning and all that behind it. Like I said, we did the fresh takes on that now. That means that at some point on deck, we've done both our favorite movies. We've done my favorite anime. At some point in our lives, I'm going to have to commit a year and a half of recordings to doing Yu Yu Hakusho.
If we can even find that show.
Is it even on a streaming service?
I have tried looking, and it's Or
is it one of those Evangelion situations where the rights are lost in just stupidity?
That's a good question. I know you'd think it would be, just on Funimation or something, but I have had a hard time finding this one.
That sucks. Maybe one day.
Maybe one day, yeah.
Maybe one day, yeah. But yeah, it's glad we got to sit and gush about this a little bit. This whole review would have been 2 hours long if I would have went through every exact essential scene that I like, but I'm trying to get better at not going through every single little detail like I did with Gurn. But yeah, it's just, anyone who's obviously, if you're watching this because you've watched it, but go encourage your friends to go give an actual watch to this and appreciate how good it is, because it's a lot better than a lot of people give it credit for.
And if you also haven't seen Eddie the Eagle, this would be, like I said before, this would be a great double feature.
Mm-hmm. It would. And I need to watch Eddie the Eagle now. We'll figure that out at some point for doing that for another one. But yeah. And also, everyone that knew how much I like this movie, if any of you have watched their 0 hour reviews, it's in the intro. So I hope that would have been an early clue. But I think it might even be this exact shot, if I'm not mistaken.
It might be.
I think it is. We have to go back and rewatch that. But anyway, yeah. That's pretty much all I got. Pretty tapped. I didn't know that we were going to get damn close to an hour talking about this, but yeah, we should get out of here. Mike, thank you for suggesting that we do this, bud. And where can they find you?
You guys can find me on Twitter at CaptainK42. You can check out my quick thoughts on letterboxd.com/CoachK42. And you can find me in all the Facebook groups just at my name. You can check out Renegade Pop Culture on Facebook and Twitter at Ren Pop Culture. You can also look for us on the Banana Meter. Listen to all of our podcasts on Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen. And last but not least, everything can be found at renegadepopculture.com. Need an escape? So do we.
And you can find me everywhere at Organoid Zero, mostly on Twitch, which I would have been streaming already, but I got this going on today. I might have another recording session with Josh Lozano about Mass Effect tomorrow, possibly, because another great piece of information came across my desk. That kid never played it before, and now he's finally starting. So I might do a recording about going through talking with him. It's not a promise. We'll see. But yeah, everyone, you have a great day, and we'll see you next time.
Peace.